Hey Nick, thanks for joining us today. Today we are talking about work, and you all may already know Nick as the SEO jobs guy and now the PPC jobs guy and a huge Minnesota Vikings fan. But now you know that Nick is also an independent SEO consultant working with enterprise level brands. So he's got 10 years agency side and has been out on his own for another five. And he will always be the search marketer of the year in our hearts. Nick, welcome.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate you.
Tech layoffs are back in the headlines.
Unfortunately.
We know we can't rely on statistics about job numbers at a broad level. And I mean, you and I have talked before about how many job ads out there are simply not even real.
Right.
Is there a fundamental shift happening in how people get jobs, especially in our industry in SEO? Or are we basically just relearning that networking is the way and it's always been the way and it's about who you know?
Yeah, I love that question because and I talk to Noah about this all the time because I do think it's the latter. Like your network is your net worth. And the cruel reality, and I'm just going to be blunt here, is like we are at the first time ever where the supply of SEO talent is higher than the demand. The problem with that, though, is I would argue that the quality of our SEO practitioners is probably lower today than it's ever been in the past. And
Okay.
there's many reasons that very likely contribute to that. And some, are by choice, some are just systems and processes that have been made. You hear Will Reynolds and myself, we talk about checkbox SEOs. Again, it's not that it's bad. It can work really well within like your division, your company, your industry. But unfortunately, not all of those tasks that are valued there transfer to another SEO role, which again just kind of brings us full swing back to lots of people needing jobs, not so many SEO jobs being available.
So if you're one of those people who maybe is realizing, oh my gosh, I don't want to be a checkbox SEO. I want to have the strategic skill level needed to apply nuance and be a really valuable hire. What do you recommend that people do if they want to upskill and make themselves super valuable? Where would they start?
Yeah, so my hot take on this is not actually the SEO skill set itself. I feel like you can learn the basics and become kind of, let's just call it 90% efficient in SEO fairly quickly.
Hmm.
Where I think people strive, where they do really, really well is when they can effectively communicate. Because a lot of SEOs lean technical, and we all know our developer friends, you're lucky if you can get them to hop on a call, let alone have coherent sentences.
Yes.
And we as SEOs are kind of the cousins of them. We like looking at our data. We like, crawling websites. We love talking about canonical tags, but we don't effectively communicate to leadership, which continues to build that black box, appearance that SEO is kind of stuck in, especially now with all the AI and LLM stuff. So
Absolutely.
definitely, I love, doing learning SEO.io from Aleda. There's so many guides now. And then, of course, we'll talk much more about it, but networking as a whole, jumping on a call with somebody and just hearing, like, what's your take on this? It's not even about right or wrong. It's just like, challenge me, like, make me defend why I think this is the way it is.
Hmm. You can learn so much from really good mentors. So as you're trying to level up your skills, seeking out those mentors, doing kind of double duty, you're networking and you're also going to learn something really great from someone who's been in the trenches for a long time. So
And the cruel
that's
reality, kind of going back to checkbox SEO, is a lot of those efforts aren't going to come during the 9 to 5. So while I very much appreciate work-life balance, SEO is a world where it's like you have to have some sort of interest. It has to encourage you to do it on your own to a certain extent because that is what's going to differentiate you. You're not going to learn half the stuff that you learn just because you're in a role, 9 to 5.
Yeah. It's the difference between passion, creating curiosity, and just coming into work. All right, Nick. So as we head into the holiday season around the world, what advice do you have for folks that are wondering what to do during this season? So, we just talked about layoffs. There are a lot of people who are going to be applying for jobs. Is it possible to find something under the radar during this time, or should people just kind of be spending this time resting and hanging out with loved ones?
I think there's so many asterisks to any answer that I could give here, but let me answer this with an actual real life situation. So, what would this have been like 7 or 8 years ago? I was fired from a job and it was early December. I mean, we're talking
Rough.
everybody is already like at home.
Yeah.
And you can imagine, I went home, talked to my wife, and I was just very motivated to move forward. But it was like this wall. It's almost like the internet shut down, business shut down. And we all know how that is. So I wasn't able to get traction at all by going to Indeed or LinkedIn, applying here. What I ended up having to do, and I was very fortunate, is I tapped my network and I ended up asking my boss or my new boss, if a certain role was available and if they would consider, leveling it up to be able to meet kind of like my credentials.
Wow.
And
Bold.
this was like December 10th or something at this point. I went in, had like 3 interviews with him and his team, and I had a job offer and was sitting in my desk by January 5th.
So you're
So,
one of those ones who snuck it in under the radar.
so I snuck it in under the radar, but the point is less like, hey, I'm awesome. It's more of like, because I had indirectly, built my network, I had always been curious and passionate. And, I just had people that I could reach out to. I fully believe that if you need to rely on an SEO jobs or any job board in the month of December, it's really hard for me to tell you don't do anything. I think what I would encourage you to do is go back to investing in yourself because the one thing we have to do is if we're asked the question, like what differentiates you, what makes you kind of special versus every other SEO that needs a job, you're saying you have 6 years, 10 years, 42 years of SEO experience. Like that's not it anymore. Like that's not special. And then, it's a race to the bottom where people just take whatever they can get.
Wow. That's a lot.
A little bit passionate rant there. That's also some of the backstory with SEO jobs too.
Yeah.
It's like I know what it's like to be without a job. I know what it's like to search when the season doesn't support it. And I also am just fully aware that, the luxury and benefits that I got of having an existing network. Because me
Right.
saying go and build a network isn't a aha, now tomorrow I have it built. I backed into it with 10 years of experience and being active in the industry. So I literally accidentally backed into my network. Now I can
Yeah.
be much more intentional and I like to think that everybody else will too.
Right. And that's the power of a network. And that's the power of that time. It really, you're right. You can learn the skills. SEO really isn't hard from a conceptual standpoint. It's really about where you take it from there. So everyone knows you as the jobs person, and your site has helped hundreds, thousands, high thousands. Is that what we're estimating at?
Yeah, I
Pe
suspect.
yeah, people find jobs in SEO and now in paid media, and that's incredible. So thank you for
Yeah,
that.
thank you to the community because honestly, and I say this almost monthly because I always share performance updates. But this is one of those sites that without the community getting behind doesn't exist and doesn't succeed. Like I can't force this to work. But I feel like the first time I got validation that okay, maybe this is adding value and this is like a thing, is when I started having people mention to me like, oh, I've been on that site, which was super validating at first because it feels, you know how it is. We sit
Someone
behind a
finds it
computer.
in the wild. You're like,
Yeah.
yes.
But
Yes.
even Noah and I had the party at Brian, and I had probably two or three companies, like people in leadership positions, like came and just said, we used your service and it was awesome. Like we know, like we didn't have to go through 300 applicants. Like people that are aware of the site are the qualified type people that are interested, and it made hiring easy, except for facts where you had two great candidates and one open position. So
Right.
honestly, like that's just been kind of the validation. So I don't have the exact number of how many butts and seats have I been able to
Yeah.
help, but hopefully more than I would give myself credit.
That's amazing. And that's, what we need in this community is connectors and people who are willing to reach out and say things like that, shake a hand, make an introduction and apply and use the job boards. So, but you've also been independent for 5 years, right? So, what tips do you have for someone who's just starting out freelance and may not have a ton of referral sources yet, or someone who's newly laid off and is wondering if they should even bother applying again and they might be wondering if the independent route is right for them? What would you say to someone just getting started?
Again, I'll answer it starting with another personal story. So I got fired a second time, and I use that to be a bit dramatic. I was let go because of COVID, but my
Mm,
whole team was let go. So, a year and a half later, after truly being fired, like I'm back in the same situation.
hmm
And for me, it was like, I just needed to do this. Like, I knew that I could not be a good employee for somebody else unless I had done this and either failed outright or didn't get the value that I had always thought it would be. And that's the thing that I always tell people. There's this stigma of like, if you go out on your own, that if you decide to go back and work for somebody else, that you failed. When in reality, the very first thing I ask people when they ask me, what do you think about this? It's just like, what do you want from life? Like, and I know that sounds very, philosophical, but, are you trying to make as much cash as humanly possible? Like, you just want to get rich? Like, great, there's a strategy to do that. You want to pay your bills and be home before your kids get off the bus? There's a strategy to do that as well. And I suspect most people like me have flipped between all of them. And that's the nice part about being solo is you can kind of flip. It's not taking a whole team with you. But so all that to be said, the best recommendations or ideas that I could give you is first and foremost, it's quality control. And what I mean by this is when you're a freelancer or a consultant, all your work is tied to your name. If you soil your name once, it's going to be really, really, really hard to come back from it. And I think one of the biggest mistakes that people do is some people just even have like really good deliverables. Like it's not an issue of like, does this work? Is it valuable? But a lot of people just like don't even do what they say they're going to do. And an example of that is like, if I say, I'm going to shoot you an email, by end of day Friday. And then it's Friday and you forget, and then you justify yourself, well, I'll do it first thing on Monday. Get in the habit of doing what you say you're going to do, because once you hold yourself accountable for that, like then you won't promise things like that, because we all do it. Like we all, how many Thursday meetings I've had, and it's like, great, I'll have that to you by the end of the week. And then you hang up and it's like 4 o'clock on Thursday already. It's like,
Did I
because
say that? Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, so just really owning your craft, being able to communicate as we've talked before, and then do what you say you're going to do, and you'll be really surprised. Like you will, you know, boil up or whatever you call it to
Mhm.
like the top 10%.
That's amazing.
And I don't know if that speaks poorly of our industry, but I will tell you, every time I've raised my rates, it's been because I've delivered something and then heard that a one third of the quality, result was charged four times more.
Yep. Yep.
So
We fix $5 haircuts, right? It's like a tagline in our industry.
exactly. So
Those
yeah, so
are
that's not a direct answer, but the question, it's just honestly better yourself, meet people. And meet people doesn't mean joining Noah like on the stage at MozCon. Like join the SEO community, Slack, Facebook, LinkedIn,
mhm.
anything. Like just start.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, you don't have to become the next Rand Fishkin and be up
Totally.
on stage all the time. You just have to become someone worth hiring, which is someone who's great to work with, consistent and reliable that you can trust and knows what they're doing.
And Adrienne, I'll tell you right now, I can tell with my network on LinkedIn who's looking for a job and who's because you see these names and all of a sudden they pop up and they're active and they
Uh-huh.
post and they
Yeah.
haven't for years before.
Oh, yeah.
And then like a month or two, whatever the process is, they'll say, great, I got this
I
new
got the
job.
job.
And then they go into their like hidey hole.
Oh,
So
totally. Because now they're going to
so
work.
exactly. So, again, I'm not saying make a commitment, become this full-time influencer type thing, but it's like bake into your process.
Yeah, put
Go to
yourself out
LinkedIn.
there in some way.
Exactly.
That's great. That's great advice. Uh, yeah, I used to tell my managers that you can always tell when someone on your team is getting ready to quit because all of a sudden their LinkedIn is ramped up. It's external facing and now it's, third person and all of a sudden I'm like, whoa, they're really getting ready to do something. So yeah,
We were in
you
office
can
and that
totally see it.
person would come in kind of dressed up a little bit. It would be like, oh, you're looking kind of
I
spiffy
got a
today.
long lunch on Friday. Yep. Yep. Not going to an interview. Don't worry. Right. So, Nick, what else do you think that is super important for folks to hear right now, just in this job market and where we are going into 2026?
I think so. This is going to be my emotional intelligence, which is where I skew. But like, let's just take a moment and just say, like, it's okay that things suck right now. Like, we are at a point where we just don't know what the future is going to get hold. We know SEO is not at the same value that it was 2 years ago, but we're also seeing AI do some really cool stuff, but adoption is not there yet. And it's expensive and they're hemorrhaging money. And the fact that Google hasn't flipped the switch, to AI mode
Hmm.
tells me at least that they don't have it figured out yet
Yeah.
because they might want that, experience, but they have a lot of shareholders and they're not going to accept not, making money. So I
Hmm.
think with that being said is take a moment and just kind of acknowledge the situation. And then I think what I would do every once in a while, I probably just like twice a year on LinkedIn, I just write something a little aggressive. I go, what are you doing today to prepare if you were getting fired on Friday? And what I mean by that is just like, how are you bettering yourself? Which is everything that we had talked about. So that's all I'm going to say. Again, I'll take myself off the emotional intelligence side of it, but I do think it's really important just to acknowledge that
Hmm.
the Rand Fishkins of the world like are being impacted one way or another. And Johnny, who is looking for an internship, is struggling too. Like struggling is not same. Everybody's is different and unique to them.
Hmm. You said to me earlier, it's those are the cards that you're dealt, and we all have to deal with them in different ways, which is why this community feels so important now, is to, reach out and start, as you said, make, even if it's just to make a friend.
Well, we
Uh,
even have that channel that's about introduce yourself. I mean, talk about just like
exactly.
a softball to, sign up for the community, come say hi. If you insist on being the lurker, fine. But you know what?
Yeah.
Hopefully you'll have an opinion on something. Or maybe someone will piss you off, which is really good because then we get passionate debates.
Exactly. Exactly. All right, Nick, can we clear up one last myth?
Let's do it.
As the jobs guy, can you get me a job?
Oh my
Please.
God. Yeah, so I don't, you and I have talked about this, and I wish I could help everybody. I get a lot of messages, people thinking that I'm like holding in my back pocket special jobs or, for the right occasion. And the reality is 99% of the time, the opportunities I know are on the site. And that doesn't mean don't send me a note. Like I'll always keep an eye out just in case somebody somewhere. But unfortunately, it's like I just kind of have access to the collection of jobs, but I'm certainly not making hiring decisions. So,
Yes. There's not like an interception step where you can, step in and put people in special places. No.
yep.
So
And
I'm
one
glad we
thing I've
cleared.
always adopted just as a consultant, but just in life is if things are too easy, like there's a reason for it. So even if I could say, here's a magical job, I hope you would be, you know,
Yes, a little skeptical of
hesitant. Yes,
it.
thank you.
Yes. That's so funny. All right, Nick. So it's my turn to pump up your stuff. Thank you so much for sharing all of this with the SEO community. It's, a lot of people are excited about all the possibilities of innovation, and other people are, there's a lot of deer in the headlights with uncertainty. And I think maybe the holidays is kind of the reset a lot of people need. So if you haven't already, please subscribe to SEO Jobs at SEOjobs.com and to Nick's newsletter at SEOforlunch.com. Thank you, Nick.
Thank you for having me.